The alert sounded at exactly 3:17 in the morning. Commander Alice Warren rolled out of her bed, instantly awake. Her small apartment on the space station felt even smaller in the dim emergency lighting. The communication panel on her wall blinked. "Urgently. Commander Warren," she answered, her voice steady despite being woken from deep sleep. "Commander, you need to report to Central Command immediately," said the voice of Admiral Peterson. "Something's happened." Alice dressed quickly in her blue and gray uniform. As she walked through the empty corridors of the station, she wondered what could be important enough to call her at this hour. She had been in charge of deep space recovery missions for 5 years now, but middle-of-the-night emergencies were rare. When she entered Central Command, she found it buzzing with activity. Screens showed star maps and trajectories. People spoke in hurried, excited voices. Admiral Peterson stood in the center, his face serious. "Warren." "Good. You're here," he said. He motioned for her to follow him to a private room off the main floor. Inside the room, a holographic display showed a ship drifting slowly through space. Alice recognized it immediately, even though she had only seen it in history books. "That's the Pioneer," she said, her eyes wide. "But that's impossible." "It was impossible," Admiral Peterson corrected. "Until 4 hours ago, when our deep space sensors picked it up just past the orbit of Neptune." Alice stared at the image. Everyone knew the story of the ECS Pioneer. 70 years ago, it was Earth's first attempt at true interstellar travel. The ship and its 12 crew members had vanished without a trace 3 months into their mission. The loss had nearly ended humanity's push into deep space. "Is this confirmed?" she asked. "Multiple times," the Admiral said. "It's broadcasting, an automated distress signal on old frequencies. The ship ID matches perfectly." Alice stepped closer to the hologram. The ship showed signs of damage. Its hull was scarred with what looked like weapons fire. "What happened to it?" she whispered. "That's what you're going to find out," Admiral Peterson said. "I'm putting you in charge of the recovery mission. The ECS Horizon is being prepped as we speak. You leave in 6 hours." Alice nodded. The Horizon was the newest, fastest ship in the fleet. "What are my orders once we reach the Pioneer?" "Determine if anyone is still alive, secure the ship and all its data, and figure out where the hell it's been for 70 years. 5 hours later, Alice stood in the hangar bay looking up at the sleek form of the Horizon. Her team of 15 specialists was already on board, preparing for departure. "Commander," a voice called from behind her. She turned to see Dr. Kevin Phillips, the medical team leader, walking toward her. "Doctor," she greeted him. "Ready for this?" Dr. Phillips shook his head. "How can anyone be ready for this? We might be about to meet people who left Earth 70 years ago but haven't aged a day in stasis. If they're alive, they'll be waking up to a completely different world." Alice had been trying not to think about that part. "We don't know if anyone survived," she reminded him. "The ship is still powered," Dr. Phillips said. "That's a good sign for the stasis systems." The journey to intercept the Pioneer took just under 2 days. Alice spent most of that time reviewing the old ship's specifications and the personal files of its original crew. 12 of Earth's finest, scientists, engineers, a doctor, and military personnel. Their faces looked back at her from the screen. Young, hopeful people with no idea they were about to become one of space history's greatest mysteries. When they finally reached visual range of the Pioneer, a hush fell over the Horizon's bridge. The old ship looked small compared to modern vessels. Its once white hull was now gray and marked with long, dark scars. "Those are definitely weapons impacts," said Security Officer Alan Reeves, pointing at the screen. "But not like anything in our records." Alice ordered the Horizon to match speed and course with the drifting ship. "Scan for life signs," she commanded. The science officer worked at her console. After a moment, she looked up with wide eyes. "Commander, I'm detecting 6 active stasis pods, 6 human life signs." Half the crew had survived. Alice felt a chill run down her spine. "Prepare a boarding team," she ordered. "Dr. Phillips, get your medical team ready. We're going in." They crossed to the Pioneer in environmental suits, not knowing what conditions they would find inside. Alice led the team through the airlock and into the old ship. Their lights cut through the darkness of the main corridor. Environmental systems are functioning at minimum levels, reported engineer Greg Wells as he checked his instruments. Atmosphere is thin but breathable. Alice removed her helmet and took a careful breath. The air tasted stale but clean. She ordered the team to do the same. They moved through the ship methodically. The living quarters were untouched, personal items still in place as if the crew had just stepped out. The bridge showed signs of rapid evacuation. Chairs overturned. Emergency protocols displayed on ancient screens. "Commander, you need to see this," called Officer Reeves from the cargo hold. When Alice entered the large space, she stopped in her tracks. Instead of the scientific equipment that should have been there, the hold contained strange objects. Some looked like sculptures made of a shimmering material that seemed to change color as they watched. Others were clearly technological, curved panels with symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. "What is all this?" Alice asked, knowing no one had an answer. "Not human," Reeves said simply. A call came from Dr. Phillips. "Commander, we've found the stasis room. You should come right away." Alice hurried through the ship to the stasis bay. There, lined against the wall, were 12 pods. 6 showed the green glow of active systems. 6 others were dark, their glass coverings shattered. Dr. Phillips stood by one of the active pods, looking at the readings. "The stasis systems have been running perfectly all this time," he said in amazement. "According to these logs, they never failed. Not even once in 70 years. Alice stepped closer to look at the person inside the nearest pod. Through the frost on the glass, she could make out the face of a man in his 30s, Chief Engineer Paul Garcia, according to the name displayed on the pod's panel. His expression was peaceful, as if he'd just closed his eyes moments ago instead of decades in the past. "Can we wake them?" Alice asked. "Yes, but carefully," Dr. Phillips answered. "The revival process will take about 12 hours for each of them. I'll start with Chief Garcia here." As the medical team began their work, Alice moved to a computer terminal. "I need to see the ship's logs, find out what happened." The ship's computer was old but still operational. However, when she tried to access the logs, she found most of them corrupted or missing entirely. The navigation data that remained showed coordinates that made no sense. They didn't match any known star system. Alice's communicator beeped. "Commander," came the voice of a science team member from the cargo hold. "We've been analyzing these artifacts. You won't believe this. They're giving off energy signatures we've never seen before, and some of them appear to be designed to interface with human neural patterns." Alice looked back at the sleeping crew members, then at the strange coordinates on the screen. "What happened to you out there?" she whispered. "Where have you been all this time? And what did you bring back with you?" Chief Engineer Paul Garcia opened his eyes slowly. The bright lights above him made him squint. He tried to speak, but his throat felt dry and rough. "Water," Dr. Phillips said to a nearby nurse. "Get him some water." Paul drank from the cup they held to his lips. His hands shook too much to hold it himself. After a few sips, he looked around the medical bay of the horizon with confusion in his eyes. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Commander Alice Warren stepped forward. "You're aboard the ECS Horizon. We found your ship, the Pioneer, drifting in our solar system." Paul's eyes widened. "We made it back?" Then he tried to sit up suddenly. "The others, Lisa, Eric, Olivia." "Easy," Dr. Phillips said, gently pushing him back down. "5 of your crewmates are also in stasis. We're waking them up slowly, one by one. You're the first." Paul looked relieved, then confused again. "But we were 12. Where are the others?" Alice and Dr. Phillips exchanged a look. "We only found 6 active stasis pods," Alice said carefully. "The other 6 were broken. We don't know what happened to those crew members." Paul closed his eyes, pain crossing his face. When he opened them again, he asked, "How long?" Alice took a deep breath. "The Pioneer disappeared 70 years ago, Mr. Garcia." Paul stared at her in shock. 70 years? His hands gripped the edge of the bed. "That's not possible. We were only gone for..." He stopped, his brow furrowing. I can't remember. Why can't I remember how long we were gone? Dr. Phillips stepped in. Memory loss is normal after long-term stasis, he assured Paul, though he gave Alice a concerned look over the engineer's head. This type of memory loss was not normal at all. Over the next 2 days, the medical team woke the other 5 survivors: Science Officer Lisa Turner, Security Chief Eric Bennett, Communications Specialist Olivia Martinez, Navigator John Blackwell, and Medical Officer Susan Harris. Each had the same reaction of shock at learning 70 years had passed, and each showed the same pattern of memory loss. Alice watched through a window as Dr. Phillips ran tests on Lisa Turner. The science officer was trying hard to remember what had happened on their mission. We found a planet, Lisa was saying. It wasn't the one we were aiming for. Something pulled us off course. An anomaly of some kind. What kind of anomaly? Dr. Phillips asked. Lisa shook her head in frustration. I don't know. I should know this. I was the one who studied it. She closed her eyes. The planet was habitable. We landed. We found... She opened her eyes again, looking lost. I don't remember what we found. Alice turned as Alan Reeves approached her. Commander, you should see this, he said, holding out a tablet. On the screen was a brain scan. What am I looking at? Alice asked. This is Lisa Turner's brain scan, Reeves explained. These patterns here? He pointed to several bright spots. They're not normal. We've scanned all 6 survivors, and they all have these same unusual patterns. What does it mean? Dr. Phillips thinks their memories might have been altered. Deliberately. Alice looked back through the window at Lisa, who was now drawing something on a piece of paper, her face intense with concentration. There's more, Reeves continued. The science team has been analyzing those artifacts from the cargo hold. They've never seen technology like this. One of the devices activated when a lab tech touched it. He swiped to show a video. In the video, a small disc-shaped object glowed blue, then projected a 3-dimensional image of Earth. The view slowly rotated, showing the planet from angles that would be impossible to capture from space. This image shows details that weren't known 70 years ago, Reeves said, and the carbon dating results just came back. These artifacts are over 50,000 years old. Alice stared at the video, then at the brain scan. Something big happened out there, she said, and someone went to a lot of trouble to make them forget it. Later that day, Alice visited Paul Garcia in his recovery room. He was sitting up in bed, looking at photos of modern Earth on a tablet. Everything's so different, he said when he saw her. 70 years. Everyone I knew is probably dead. I'm sorry, Alice said, sitting in the chair beside his bed. This must be very hard. Paul set down the tablet. I've been trying to remember, he said. About the mission. I know we found something important, something that changed everything, but it's like trying to see through fog. Take your time, Alice encouraged him. Maybe start with what you do remember clearly. Paul nodded. We were 3 months into our mission when we encountered some kind of spatial anomaly. It wasn't on any of our charts. When we tried to change course to avoid it, it seemed to follow us? No, that's not right. He rubbed his forehead. It pulled us in. We couldn't escape it. Where did it take you? Alice asked. Far. Much farther than our ship was designed to go. Paul's eyes grew distant. When we came out of it, we were near a star system not on any of our maps. There was a planet there, Earth-like, perfect really. We decided to investigate. And what did you find on this planet? Paul's expression changed, becoming troubled. A city, he whispered. Empty but perfectly preserved, like the people had just walked away moments before we arrived. He looked at Alice with suddenly clear eyes. But it wasn't a human city. The proportions were wrong. Everything was just slightly off. Did you find any of the inhabitants? No, but we found... Paul's face clouded again. I can't remember. There's something important about what we found. Something about us. About humans. He hit the bed in frustration. Why can't I remember? Meanwhile, in another room, Olivia Martinez sat alone, writing rapidly in a notebook the medical team had given her. Unlike the others, she hadn't told the doctors about her returning memories. Something told her to keep quiet about what she was beginning to recall. She wrote down fragments as they came to her. Words like connection and origin filled the pages along with rough sketches of symbols she had seen in the alien city. When she heard footsteps approaching her room, she quickly hid the notebook under her pillow. A nurse entered with her dinner. "How are you feeling today, Ms. Martinez?" "Better," Olivia lied. "Just tired." After the nurse left, Olivia took out a small object she had kept hidden since waking up. It was a smooth black stone that fit perfectly in her palm. She didn't know how she had managed to keep it with her through stasis, but she knew it was important. When she held it, more memories seemed to surface. The stone began to warm in her hand. As it did, tiny lines of light appeared on its surface, forming patterns similar to the ones she had drawn. Olivia closed her eyes and saw the alien city again, and this time, she remembered what they had discovered there. Her eyes snapped open. "We need to tell them," she whispered to herself. "They need to know the truth about Earth." Alice sat in Admiral Peterson's office back at the space station. Through the large window, she could see the Pioneer docked nearby, now surrounded by research vessels. It had been a week since they brought the ship back. "So, what you're telling me," Admiral Peterson said, "is that all 6 survivors show signs of memory tampering, and the artifacts they brought back are over 50,000 years old and contain technology we can't understand." "Yes, sir," Alice replied. "Dr. Phillips believes the unusual patterns in their brains aren't random. Something or someone deliberately blocked specific memories." The Admiral's face grew serious. "This information stays in this room, Commander. As of now, the Pioneer recovery operation falls under top security clearance." Before Alice could respond, the door opened. A tall man in a gray suit walked in without knocking. 2 armed guards followed him. "Admiral," the man said with a cold smile, "I'm Director William Mason, Bureau of Interstellar Affairs. My office is taking over this investigation, effective immediately." Admiral Peterson stood up. "On whose authority?" Mason placed a document on the desk. "The President's. The return of the Pioneer and its cargo is now a matter of national security." Alice watched as armed guards began to fill the hallway. Outside, within hours, Director Mason had taken control of everything related to the Pioneer. The survivors were moved to a secure facility on Earth. The alien artifacts were taken to separate research labs. Alice and her team were pushed aside. "This isn't right," Alice told Dr. Phillips as they watched workers in special suits carry crates of artifacts away. "Those people just woke up in a world 70 years after their own. They need support, not interrogation." "Mason's people aren't interested in their well-being," Dr. Phillips agreed. "They only care about what the crew knows and what technology they brought back." Alice made a decision. "I'm going to check on them." She used her military clearance to visit the facility where the survivors were being kept. The building looked like a hospital on the outside, but the heavy security told a different story. Inside, she found Paul Garcia sitting alone in a small room that looked too much like a cell. "Commander Warren," he said when she entered. "Good to see a friendly face." "How are they treating you?" Alice asked. Paul shrugged. "Endless questions about the mission. Tests every day. They won't let us talk to each other." He lowered his voice. "Something's wrong. This isn't just about finding out what happened to us." "What do you mean?" "They're more interested in the planet we found than in us, especially this Director Mason. He keeps asking about the city, about any technology we might have brought back. It's like he already knows something." Before Alice could respond, the door opened and a security guard stepped in. "Commander Warren, your visit time is up." Outside, Alice bumped into Lisa Turner being escorted down the hall. Lisa quickly whispered as they passed, "The nanites are working. We're starting to remember." Alice didn't have time to ask what she meant. After she left the facility, she called Dr. Phillips. "Did Lisa Turner ever mention nanites to you?" she asked. "No," he replied. "But there was something strange in their blood tests. Microscopic machines. unlike anything we've seen before. They seemed inactive, so we didn't think they were important. What if they're not inactive anymore? Alice wondered. What if they're repairing whatever was done to the survivors' memories? That night, Alice received an urgent message from Olivia Martinez. It simply read, "I need to talk to you. I remember the connection. Not safe here." Alice arranged to meet Olivia the next day, but Olivia never showed up. Instead, Alice got a call from Dr. Phillips. "Olivia Martinez is dead," he said, his voice shaking. "They're saying she killed herself, but Alice, I saw the body. This wasn't suicide." Cold fear ran through Alice. "What's going on, Kevin?" "I don't know, but I took samples from her body before Mason's people took over. The nanites in her blood were active, rebuilding neural pathways. She was remembering something they don't want known." Alice made another decision. She contacted a friend in Earth Defense Fleet Security and got access to the surveillance footage from Olivia's room. The video showed Olivia writing frantically in her notebook. Then the feed cut out for 10 minutes. When it came back on, Olivia was dead. The notebook, Alice realized. We need to find her notebook. But when she went back to the facility, she was denied entry. Her security clearance had been revoked. She watched helplessly as more government vehicles arrived and armed guards increased around the building. That evening, Alice was sitting in her apartment, trying to figure out what to do next, when someone knocked on her door. She opened it, cautiously. Paul Garcia stood in her doorway, breathing hard like he had been running. "Can I come in?" "How did you get out?" Alice asked as she let him in. Lisa created a distraction. The security systems failed just long enough for me to slip away. He pulled something from his pocket, a small black stone. "Olivia gave this to me before she died. She said if anything happened to her, I should get it to you." Alice took the stone. It was smooth and cool to the touch. "What is it?" "A key. To our memories." Paul's eyes were clear now, more focused than before. "I remember more each day. The planet we found wasn't alien, Commander, it was Earth." "That's not possible," Alice said. "Not our Earth, but identical in almost every way. Same continent, same ocean, same moon, but no humans, at least not like us." Paul sat down heavily. The people who lived there called themselves the predecessors. They looked almost human, but with subtle differences, and their technology was far beyond ours. What happened to them? They left, thousands of years ago. But they left behind a message for us. They knew we would come someday. Paul looked up at Alice. "The predecessors told us they were the original humans, that we are their descendants, engineered and placed on Earth after they abandoned it 50,000 years ago." Alice stared at him in shock. "If that's true, why would someone want to cover it up?" "Because it changes everything we know about human history," Paul said. "And because the predecessors are still out there. They want to meet us again." A loud banging at the door made them both jump. "Commander Warren," a voice called. "This is Earth Defense Fleet Security. Open the door." Paul's face went pale. "They found me." Alice quickly looked around her apartment. "There's another way out. Come on." As they slipped out the back way, Alice knew she was crossing a line she could never uncross. But the truth about humanity's origins was too important to let Director Mason bury it. Rain poured down as Alice and Paul hurried through the dark streets. They kept to shadows and avoided the main roads where security cameras might spot them. After an hour of walking, they reached an old apartment building on the edge of the city. "We should be safe here for now," Alice said as she entered a code on a worn keypad. The door clicked open. The apartment inside was small but clean. It looked like no one had lived there for years. "Whose place is this?" Paul asked, looking around. "At the sparse furniture." "Mine, off the records," Alice explained. "In my line of work, sometimes you need a place no one knows about." Alice handed Paul a towel to dry off. As he rubbed his wet hair, she noticed a small red light blinking under his skin behind his ear. "Paul, there's something in your neck," she said, moving closer to examine it. He touched the spot. The tracking implant. They put them in all of us after we woke up. Said it was for our safety. We need to remove it now, Alice said. They'll find us soon otherwise. Alice found a medical kit and carefully cut out the small tracking device. Paul winced but didn't complain. Once it was out, she dropped it in a glass of water. That should buy us some time, she said. Now tell me everything you remember. Paul sat at the small kitchen table. The black stone Olivia had given him lay between them. It's coming back in pieces, he said. The nanites are repairing our memories. But it's slow. I remember landing on the planet. We called it Earth 2 because it looked so much like home. Was it empty when you arrived? Alice asked. Yes. The cities were abandoned but perfectly preserved, like everyone had just disappeared. We explored for days. That's when we found the message center. Message center? Paul closed his eyes, concentrating. A building in the center of their main city. When we entered, it activated. Holograms appeared. People who looked almost human, but not quite. Their eyes were larger, their fingers longer. They spoke to us in a language none of us knew, but somehow we could understand them. What did they say? They called themselves the predecessors. They said they were the original human species, that they had evolved on Earth millions of years ago. But around 50,000 years ago, they detected a cosmic event that would make Earth uninhabitable for thousands of years. Paul opened his eyes. They had the technology to leave, to find a new home among the stars. But they didn't want to abandon Earth forever. So they created us, modern humans, genetically engineered to survive the changed conditions, with the plan that we would rebuild civilization. Alice tried to process this information. If that's true, why did they make us so much less advanced? Why not give us their technology, their knowledge? They did, in a way. They left behind teachers, predecessors who stayed on Earth to guide. Early humans. The message said they became the gods in our ancient myths. Paul leaned forward. But something went wrong. Some disaster happened, and contact was lost. The predecessors on the New World could never find out what happened to Earth until our ship arrived. So the Pioneer just happened to find them? Alice asked, skeptical. No. They found us. The anomaly that pulled our ship off course. They created it. They've been monitoring Earth for centuries, watching us develop. When we finally reached a point where we could travel beyond our solar system, they brought us to them. Alice shook her head in amazement. And Director Mason somehow knows about this already? I think so, Paul said. Why else try so hard to cover it up? To keep us isolated and silence anyone who starts to remember too much? The sound of a helicopter flying low over the building made them both tense up. We need to move again, Alice said. But first, she pulled out her communication device and called Dr. Phillips. Kevin, it's me. Are you somewhere safe to talk? For now, Dr. Phillips replied, his voice tense. They've been questioning everyone who worked with the survivors. What's going on, Alice? Quickly, she explained what Paul had told her. Dr. Phillips was silent for a moment before responding. That explains why they took all my samples and research. Notes. I managed to hide some data, though. The nanites in their bloodstreams aren't just repairing memories, they're changing their bodies in subtle ways. Changing how? Alice asked, alarmed. Strengthening their immune systems, repairing cellular damage. These people might live twice as long as normal humans now. I think it was a gift from the predecessors. A loud banging at Dr. Phillips's end of the call startled them all. They're here, he whispered. Alice, there's one more thing. Security Chief Bennett escaped during the chaos when Paul got out. No one knows where he is. But before he left, he told me he had copied all the original, unaltered logs from the Pioneer. If you can find him, the call cut off abruptly. We need to find Eric, Paul said urgently. If he has the ship's logs, we can prove everything. How? This city has 20 million people, Alice said. Paul smiled slightly. The crew of the Pioneer had fallback protocols in case we got separated on an alien world. Eric will go to high ground at sunset and signal. As darkness fell, Alice and Paul made their way to the roof of the tallest public building they could access safely, an old library with poor security. From there, they had a view of much of the city. What are we looking for? Alice asked as they scanned the darkening skyline. 3 short light flashes, then 1 long one, Paul explained. Old Earth Naval Code for I am here. They watched for almost an hour before they saw it. 3 quick flashes followed by 1 long beam of light from the roof of a building about a mile away. That's him, Paul said with relief. Getting to Eric proved difficult. The streets were filled with security patrols now, and Alice's face was being shown on public screens as a wanted person. They had to use service tunnels and abandoned subway lines to make their way across the city. When they finally reached the building, they found Eric waiting for them, looking tired but alert. Took you long enough, he said when he saw Paul. He nodded respectfully at Alice. Commander, Eric led them to a small room where he had set up temporary shelter. From a hidden pocket in his jacket, he pulled out a small data crystal. Everything is here, he said. The complete, unaltered logs of our mission. All our findings about the predecessors, their technology, their message to humanity. He handed the crystal to Alice. The public deserves to know the truth. Mason will do anything to stop this information from getting out, Alice warned. Which is why I also found this, Eric said, pulling out a small device. It's from one of the artifacts we brought back. The predecessors used it to broadcast messages across their entire world at once. If we can connect it to Earth's communication network, we can send the truth to everyone simultaneously. Paul looked at the device with recognition. I remember this. It uses quantum entanglement. Mason's people won't be able to block or trace it. Alice held the data crystal, feeling its weight, not just physically but historically. In her hand was the truth about human origins, the knowledge that they were all part of something much larger than they had ever imagined. We need to get to a major network hub, she said finally. I know someone who works at the Global Broadcasting Center. If we can get in there, we can connect this device to their systems. Eric nodded. But we need to move fast. I overheard Mason talking before I escaped. He's not just hiding the truth, he's planning to destroy the Pioneer and everything on it. He wants to erase all evidence that we ever found the predecessors. Why? Alice asked. Why go to such extremes? Power, Paul said simply. If people learn we were created by an advanced civilization, that our gods were real beings with real technology, it changes everything. Religion, history, our understanding of ourselves. Some people would rather keep control than face a new truth. Alice looked at the small black stone and the data crystal. Then let's make sure they don't get to decide for everyone. It's time humanity learned where we really come from. The Global Broadcasting Center stood like a silver tower in the heart of the city. Hundreds of armed guards surrounded it now. News screens showed Alice's face along with Paul's and Eric's. They were being called dangerous criminals who had stolen secret government property. We'll never get past all those guards, Paul said as they watched from a small cafe across the street. Alice sipped her coffee calmly. We don't need to. My contact is coming to us. A few minutes later, a young woman with short red hair sat down at their table. She wore the uniform of a GBC technician. Commander Warren, she said quietly. I'm Natalie. Frank sent me. Alice nodded. Frank Douglas was an old friend, a retired admiral who had helped her in the past. We need to get inside, Alice told her. To the main broadcast hub. Natalie looked nervous but determined. I can get you in through the service entrance, but security is checking everyone carefully today. We have no choice, Eric said. By tomorrow, Mason will have destroyed all evidence. Natalie gave them each a technician uniform and ID badge. These will get you past the first checkpoints. After that, you're on your own. The service entrance was less guarded than the main. Doors, but still had security scanners and armed personnel. Alice, Paul, and Eric approached with their heads down, looking like tired workers at the end of a long shift. IDs, the guard said in a bored voice. They showed their fake badges. The guard barely looked at them before waving them through. Inside, Natalie led them through service corridors and maintenance tunnels. They avoided the main hallways where more security would be watching. The broadcast hub is on level 15, Natalie whispered, but you'll need executive clearance to access it. Leave that to me, Alice said, pulling out a small device she had taken from her apartment. It was a security bypass tool, Technically illegal, but standard equipment for deep space recovery missions where systems might be damaged. They took a service elevator to level 14, then climbed an emergency stairwell to 15. The broadcast hub door had a security panel that required both an ID card and fingerprint. "This will take a minute," Alice said as she attached her device to the panel. It buzzed softly as it worked. "Someone's coming," Eric warned, hearing footsteps in the corridor. Paul quickly opened a nearby supply closet and they all squeezed inside just as a security team walked past. When the coast was clear, they returned to the door. Alice's device had worked. The lock clicked open. The broadcast hub was a large room filled with computers and screens. It was the heart of the global broadcasting center, connected to every communication satellite in Earth orbit. "Where do we need to connect the predecessor device?" Alice asked. Eric examined the equipment. "There," he said, pointing to a central console. "That's the main output node." As they worked to connect the alien device to Earth's systems, alarms suddenly blared throughout the building. "They know we're here," Paul said. A voice came over the intercom system. "This is Director William Mason. The building is now in lockdown. All personnel must remain where they are. Security teams, converge on level 15 immediately." "Hurry," Alice urged Eric, who was connecting the final wires. "Almost there," he said. "The device needs to calibrate to our technology." The predecessor device began to glow with a soft blue light. The data crystal fit perfectly into a slot on its side. "It's working," Eric said with excitement. "The data is uploading to the broadcast system." Suddenly, the door to the broadcast hub burst open. Armed guards rushed in, followed by Director Mason himself. "Stop them," Mason shouted. Guards grabbed Alice, Paul, and Eric, pulling them away from the console. But it was too late. The predecessor device was already connected and working. "It doesn't matter what you do now," Alice told Mason calmly. "The truth is already being sent out. Every screen, every communication device on Earth is about to receive the real story." Mason's face twisted with anger. "You have no idea what you're doing," he hissed. "Some truths are too dangerous for the public." "That's not for you to decide," Paul said. The main screen in the broadcast hub flickered. The face of Captain Laura Jenkins, the original commander of the Pioneer, appeared. It was a recording from the ship's logs. "This is Captain Laura Jenkins of the ECS Pioneer," she said. "What we have discovered will change human history forever. We are not alone in the universe, and we are not what we thought we were." The screen showed images of the empty alien city, then the message center where holographic figures spoke to the Pioneer crew. Mason lunged for the console, trying to shut it down, but the predecessor device had locked the system. The broadcast continued, unstoppable. The recording showed the predecessors explaining humanity's true origins, how they had engineered modern humans before leaving Earth, how they had guided early civilizations, and how they had waited thousands of years to reconnect with their descendants. "6 of our crew have chosen to remain with the predecessors," Captain Jenkins continued in the recording. "They will learn more about our true heritage and serve as ambassadors. The rest of us are returning to Earth with this message and samples of predecessor technology that could transform our society." Her face grew serious. "We know some will resist this truth. Power structures built on old beliefs will fight against it. That's why I've instructed my crew to prepare backup plans in case we are silenced upon our return." The recording ended with coordinates, the location of the predecessor's world. Around the globe, people watched in stunned silence as humanity's origin story was rewritten before their eyes. In homes, offices, public squares, everywhere there was a screen. People learned they were part of something much bigger than they had imagined. In the broadcast hub, Mason's shoulders slumped in defeat. "You don't understand what you've done," he said quietly. "We weren't ready for this." "It wasn't your choice to make," Alice replied. 3 months later, Alice stood at a window in the new predecessor research center, watching workers install equipment. The Pioneer was now on public display in the main hall, restored to its original condition. Paul and Lisa came to stand beside her. Like the other survivors, they looked healthier and younger than their actual age, thanks to the nanite technology in their bodies. The first official mission to the predecessor world leaves next month, Paul said. The new ship can make the journey in just 2 years instead of 70. Lisa smiled. And we're going with them, as guides. What about you, Commander? Paul, asked Alice. Will you join us? Alice watched as scientists carefully studied the artifacts from the Pioneer. In the month since the broadcast, human society had been transformed. Religious leaders debated the meaning of creation in light of the new evidence. Scientists raced to understand predecessor technology. Politicians argued about how to approach potential contact. It had been chaotic at times, even frightening. But humanity was adapting, growing, changing in response to the truth. Yes, Alice decided. I want to meet our ancestors. I want to understand who we really are and what we might become. Outside the window, people lined up to enter the center, eager to learn about their true origins. Children pointed excitedly at displays showing the predecessor world. Humanity had faced its greatest shock, learning they were not the original masters of Earth, but rather created beings with a purpose. Yet instead of breaking under this revelation, they were rising to embrace it, looking to the stars with new understanding. The vanished Earth vessel had returned bearing secrets of a lost world, but in doing so, it had opened the path to humanity's future.